It's real. It's real. You know the deal. You know the deal. Come on.
Hey, it's Shanté.
And I'm Natalie, and welcome to What's the Deal, a podcast powered by the Norfus Firm. At the Norfus Firm, we solve people problems, and we have the great pleasure of working with employers all around the world on HR, DEI, and workplace culture issues. We've been talking a lot about leadership in these last few episodes. I mean, that is why we exist. But
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
like, we always talk about leadership.
we do, but it's been like really targeted, I feel like. We've talked about coaching and creating a coaching culture. We've talked about stop being reactive to the stuff that you see out here in the news and be more proactive with understanding what's going on in your workplace. And today we're going to talk about middle managers. Not the first time.
Definitely won't be the last.
Yep. So today we're going to talk about middle management. As you said, it's not going to be the last time because middle management are the culture keepers of your organization. Middle managers are typically executing with the vision from the top and supporting, the growth and actual execution at lower levels. And frankly, those are the hardest roles. I mean, you're typically looking at, from what we've seen, middle managers are anywhere from like carrying a title of manager up to like director level, right? And so people have assistant, director, and all these other titles they use. But if you're thinking about the places where middle managers usually reside, that's the position title. And so when you think about middle managers, particularly because you live and breathe a lot of this data, like what are you typically thinking about? Like what's coming up when you're dicing through or slicing through data and trying to understand what's going on in a workplace?
It's really important to understand their perspective because they are like the linchpin. They're the bridge in the middle, and they're in a really tough spot. They're in a really, really tough spot. Having to, I've said it before in other episodes where they catch hell from both sides. They get it from their leaders, and then they get it from the employees, and they also got to manage workload and figure out how to get things done. And like they have so many priorities that they're just trying to juggle. That it's a really, really tough spot to be in. And especially if you're not getting the kind of support being either in training or development that you need in order to handle all of that. You got to carry a lot in there. And so I'm always sensitive to the managers. We're people centered and employee centered, centered in general, but specifically like really, really protective of managers just because they're in a tough spot when it comes to how they really, really drive business within an organization. It's hard.
So you, like me, interview a lot of senior leaders, people who are, typically carrying a VP title or higher, right? Do you think senior leaders really understand this pressure cooker that exists in the middle?
I don't. It depends on how long that person has been in a senior leadership position. So I think newer leaders, someone who probably just moved up within the last X many months or so, year, they probably get it because they probably were dealing with that most recently. So it's a recent experience and memory for them. Folks who've been in these leadership positions for 10, 15, 20 years, right? Like they haven't been in the trenches like that in a while. And so I don't know. And the business environment has changed so drastically over these last, even 5 years, let alone 10 years, right? That they're out of touch. So I don't know if they really fully understand the impact that managers have to deal with. And that's just internally. You're not even talking about the external factors that also play on how managers have to manage and get work done within an organization because of how just the world has changed in terms of doing business. It's just a lot of pressure. So I don't think so. I think they're out of touch completely.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think that's a great nuance because every so often, we'll be leading an interview where someone is recently promoted to a VP role. And so you hear them sort of talking more from the role they came from, right? Their experience more as a middle manager than, a vet as a senior leader. But when you look at some of these veteran senior leaders, it's sometimes so fascinating how they speak in these platitudes. And I'm always like, so who's going to do that? right? Like they talk about, like it's sort of like they have a lot of great talking points for what quote unquote should be said, but the way that we hear them speak is in such a way where it's like you don't even know what it would take to get that done. Like, and do you even know how already overburdened the people who would have to do this newfound thing you think should have done are? And like, where does that fit in all the things they already have to do?
Mm-hmm.
So again, this just boils back to we there's never not a reason to do an assessment, right? Like there's always a reason to do an assessment. And when you do a thorough assessment that includes some kind of survey, dig in to what your people managers are saying, dig into what your middle managers are saying, and focus on that. Because if you don't focus on that, all of these beautiful, great ideas that you have at the top are not going to happen. Because those are the people who have to not only buy into the change, right? They have to buy into whatever new business initiative you want. They have to go get their teams to buy into it with them and execute. And that is not a small feat, right? Like if you're thinking about, hey, we want to have, you know, a new policy where everyone is using an AI note-taking tool in all their meetings so that we can analyze the productivity of what happens in these meetings. Like that is actually a great idea, but it sounds like Big Brother. So a lot of people would be like, well, why are you going to start monitoring what I'm doing? Like, oh, you just want to look over my shoulder? Like that's going to be the reaction of a lot of people. And if your middle managers don't buy into it, it's not going to happen. And people aren't going to be that open on those AI note-taking tools, or they're going to meet less and figure out how to do stuff without being in meetings. And the goal you're trying to accomplish gets subverted because people don't want to be monitored. But if you're thinking about the people who have to go sell it, then, you know, you have a better chance of people seeing it as a helpful thing, not a Big Brother thing.
Yeah, which means they need support. They need, right?
That
Like
was so melancholy, but true.
They need the tools, right? Like you give them this charge, but you got to equip them to be able to get that done. And if we go back to just everything that they have on their plate, and the fact that they're in the middle, they need support that is practicable in real time, something that they can execute on, and they need it from both sides. So I think, you know, we love coaching. If you want, you can refer to an episode that we just did. We think that coaching isn't leveraged enough when it comes to middle managers in terms of their development, both in coaching they receive from their leaders and getting them equipped to coach the people underneath them. Like they need both of those. And I don't know of anyone, I don't know if there's any curriculum really that's designed to both impart and administer, right? Like from both sides.
It was, and you've heard me talk about this a lot. We used to really value this, right? Like as a country, meaning like corporate America really valued leadership and management training, right? Like Franklin Covey was like one of those big, you know, it's like everybody would go to these really well designed week-long trainings, not 30-minute trainings, not like really and truly space being made. And it just died. Like it died probably in like the, you know, it started dying in the early 2000s. And it's like now it's like slapped on as opposed to sort of thoughtfully done. But you know, if you're talking, especially if you're a larger company where sometimes teams have hundreds of people on them, it is, in my opinion, negligent not to have, you know, consistent training where managers who have to oversee teams are given multiple ways and times to learn and practice, you know, how to manage. And then I think that rolls up too. Like how many times we hear executives don't have time for training. Why? Like when did you stop needing to learn new skills and be thoughtful of how you're giving feedback to people? Because again, like we are fortunate in that because I'm also a lawyer and I still do all these investigations, we know that's where stuff falls down. We know it. We have the data for it, is that these conflicts and things happen in the workplace because people don't know how to manage or lead. And we hear it anecdotally all the time. I don't know. I was just put in this role. I don't know how I'm supposed to be managing people. Why? Like, this is so avoidable. It's so weird to me that you would want to put people into jobs that they're not actually qualified to do. And hey, that's what the heck we keep hearing about DEI, which is a lie, right? That people are like underrepresented people are just given jobs they're not qualified for. That is like the biggest lie of this anti-DEI rhetoric. But when you are throwing managers and leaders into roles where they're not trained how to manage or lead, you're putting unqualified people in jobs. You are doing that every day. So I got a little hype about that because it really frustrates me. But
the managing and leading today is different. So you bring up the Franklin Covey example, and that was appropriate for that time. You can't apply that now. It's a whole different way of doing business, a whole different framework. So that even that type of development, just I don't think it would work. Which is why I believe coaching is your answer, because the coaching allows you to me, if I'm a manager and I can get someone to, coaching allows you to get buy-in. Coaching allows you to be able to delegate. Coaching allows you to do a lot of things. If you're thinking about you as a manager coaching people underneath you, it kind of helps you. It's a tool. It's a lever that you can use to be able to get your work done, as opposed to you having to think about, okay, how do I figure everything out for everybody? No, coaching allows you to bring them into the process, right? And then as a managing, or excuse me, coaching a manager to be able to do that, it's a very similar thing. It's like you're giving them the tools to be able to work the work better. So it's like you really got to be able to evolve your learning and development in order to bring it more into that kind of coaching type of culture and coaching type of development, because it is to meet the demands of this workplace and this environment. I feel like it's one of the best tools that you can give people in order to be able to meet these demands. Otherwise, I don't know what y'all gonna do.
And let's be clear about coaching, right? Because I can imagine someone listening and they're like, well, that's cute that you keep talking about this one-on-one coaching, but I have 5,000 managers. How am I going to find 5,000 coaches? There's group coaching. Okay. There are multiple modalities when it comes to coaching. We also, a really great example for that is a tool we know and love and use, Cloverleaf. We've done a webinar with Cloverleaf. We probably can even drop in a little clip for how cool Cloverleaf is to this episode. But when we think about Cloverleaf is incredible for companies that have tons of managers, because it's an online coaching tool where a manager will take all these assessments and get daily coaching tips about themselves, how they might show up as a leader or a manager, and daily coaching about people they manage. So even something like that meaning like there is a way for coaching to happen in any organization. So don't hear us saying you have to go hire an individual coach for every manager, particularly if you're huge, but look at other ways of doing it. Don't stop there, right? Because to Shanté's point, giving someone ongoing coaching, not just training, not what these concepts mean, but coaching really looks at their individual journey as a manager. Like, there's lots of different ways to do it. So again, let's be creative, let's be thoughtful, but people need that ongoing coaching because we are over prioritized. Sometimes those coaching tips from Cloverleaf just help me be like, oh, yep. Like, they just help me bring me right back to like, this is my North Star. This is who I am as a leader and a manager. So let me be thoughtful of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And this is who I'm talking to or I'm speaking with, and this is who I'm working with. And so it's like, it's the inclusion piece. I'm working with this person or these groups of people or this team in a way that is mindful of who they are and what they got going on, so that we can get to the best result possible. It's scalable, is what we're saying. So thank you for bringing that up, because people could get tripped up on that. So people have to know that there are resources to help do this. And we're not just saying to go out there and just figure it out. No, people have done it already. Just go invest in the resource.
Exactly. So, look, what we're saying obviously is starting off with like help people feel qualified for their jobs. Because I feel like for some reason you always get so many people talking about they don't know, they just were thrown in this job. People feel very comfortable telling you that. But what does that look like? Meaning, like, what does it show up like in a workplace when someone feels they're not equipped or don't know how to manage?
It's disempowering. It's completely disempowering. They don't feel like they can really do the job fully. And so they retreat, and so they default back to the work that they know how to do, which is a lot of times is the work that they were doing before they became a manager or a leader, right? And so they're not, and the team's just not as effective. You lose what could be a high functioning team when the person who's in charge of the team doesn't feel that they can support the team. And so being thrown in that position where you can't be effective in that role is very debilitating, disempowering, and it's counterproductive.
And it creates a lot of fear, right?
Tons of fear.
Because they know they don't know what they don't know, or they know they don't know a lot.
They know that they don't know.
Mm-hmm. Your point around retreating is because they don't want to get sued. They don't want an HR complaint. And that's a really, really rough place to manage.
Especially in this world of DEI. Like, in looking at this, and even before all of this stir up with the politicalization of things, we were seeing it in our feedback sessions, listening sessions before, where folks just get, I don't know what to sue, I don't know what to say, it's like people forget how to deal with people.
Right. People forget how to deal with people. All right, so as we bring this home, look, coaching in 2025 is more important than ever because there isn't a one-size-fits-all, right? There is not a playbook that you can apply that's going to absolutely work in every situation. So coaching allows for people to understand themselves better so that they can better differentiate how to manage the different personalities and needs of their teams.
Yep.
Get folks trained from the outset. Like, don't throw people into jobs that they're not qualified for. And qualified is not just your technical ability to do the substance of the work. Qualified is also if it includes managing other people, knowing how to manage other people. So don't think people can just through osmosis or some other way know how to manage people, because we're here to tell you they can't. We hear this comment all the time. And then, like everything else, make sure, which is really the first thing, you understand what kind of culture you have in the first place, right? Make sure you've done some kind of workplace assessment, some kind of survey to understand, are you already in a good prime place for people to give and expect to receive feedback? And of course, please get an expert to help you do this. And, we're always happy to supply our services. So feel free to reach out to us. You know where to find us, but I'm going to tell you anyway, thenorthwestfirm.com/podcast, LinkedIn, all the other social media channels. We really would love to hear from you, and feel free to let us know what kind of topics you'd like us to talk about. Until then, be well, and thanks for listening.
See ya.
Here it is. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and leadership. That's the deal when you know what you're dealing with.